morning, or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. This is a very special edition of Grassroots Motorsports Live, presented by CRC Industries. I'm JG Pasterjack. We are right here in our own backyard today on a live. I feel like a morning DJ doing a live remote. I feel like we should be throwing frisbees out to actually we have frisbees too. We have special Koni Active frisbees because that's where we are today. We are taking part in the Koni Activate the Nation tour, heading to 26 cities. Is 26, Dave? 24 cities around the country where you get a chance to drive Koni equipped vehicles with their new active technology shocks. And pan over and get a shot of the lineup here. We got active equipped BMWs and Mustangs. We've got a Koni Sport equipped BMW and an OEM equipped Mustang over there. The Koni Active shock holds the DNA and is an evolution of the original Koni FSD shock absorber, which, if you are familiar with us at all, you know that we are huge fans of the Koni FSD. It's a frequency-sensitive damping technology. This is the next evolution of that. We're going to be hearing about basically why it's better. One of the reasons is it's cheaper, which is great. But another one of the reasons is there's a lot more applications for this than there were for the FSD. So we're really excited about that. Thanks to everybody that's watching. We actually have a pretty good crowd for noon on a Monday. And thanks for joining us in this special edition of the live show. Let me get Josh over here real quick. So you work here at Brothers Performance, which is here. You can hold that. No, like up here, hold that. Not just hold it for me. You work here at Brothers Performance. It's a high-performance tuning and installation shop here in Deland, and just got the opportunity to take a ride in a Koni-equipped BMW and then an OEM-equipped BMW. Yeah. A little closer. There you go. Like full gangsta
right
style. Yeah.
You gotta kiss it.
So, just give me your first thought on moving from the Koni Active equipped BMW to those first few feet in the OEM car. Did you notice right away?
Well, I drove the Koni Active Mustang first, and then I drove the OEM Mustang second. And right away when I got into the Koni Active and going over the bumps, you could clearly tell that there was some extremely good suspension work put into it. It's how do I describe it? How the weight distribution that the suspension does is extraordinary in comparison to the OEM suspension. You could be going over bumps and you can't really feel that in your foot while you're on the accelerator or on your seat. In comparison to the OEM, you're rattling and shaking all over, you know.
So, what do you drive? What's your normal fun daily driver or not so fun daily driver?
Well, my daily driver, it's a 2008 Jeep Patriot, and then my fun driver, it's a 1990 Ford Mustang notchback. So if you want to compare it to the Abachi Sportline suspension on my 1990 Ford Mustang in comparison to the Koni Active on the 2018 Ford Mustang, I mean, it is night and day. Like I said, I'd be rattling all over the place on my 90 Mustang notchback, but the 2018, it's almost like just smooth, just like driving a Caddy.
So what do you look for if you had to have a wish list of what you wanted from a shock absorber? If you're spending your money on replacing shocks on your car, what are you going to expect a shock to do for you?
Well, I'm going to expect the drivability, the functionality, all to be top notch. You know, when it comes accelerating to going around a corner extremely fast, I want to be able to rely on that suspension to be sturdy and to be ready for any moment's time to react in the way it should be reacting, and the Koni Active does that. Awesome.
All right, let's get Alan in here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Josh, we appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
So, you heard what he said. This is Alan Bier. How do you pronounce your last name, Alan? Breer, okay. Alan Breer from Koni Shocks. Alan, one of Lee Grimes. Actually, you're taking over for Lee Grimes this week on this part of the tour.
Yes,
and then
we are alternating.
You and Lee are switching off. Lee will be on the tour next week. So your chance when you come out to one of these to meet an actual Koni engineer. So you heard what Josh said, what he's looking for in a shock, and what he sort of expects. That to me was what the old FSD was. I want transparency in a shock. I want to be able to bolt it on, and I don't want to have to think about what my shock is doing for me. I just want it to work. I haven't driven these new active shocks yet. Are these FSDs only better, basically?
Exactly. I mean, we've made subtle changes throughout the years of FSD, but realigning it in the marketplace, price point, like you brought up earlier, they're generally on application 10 to 15% less than a Sport was versus FSD that was always more expensive. The technology that's in that are some of these valves we have here on the table that you can hold up. Yeah. So, I mean, these are kind of a reverse of a blow-off valve. As it's creating more force, it starts to close up. Versus just short impacts in the road, it's actually going to allow the oil to go around them. It's going to allow your shock absorber to work, which is what that needs to happen. That's how it's not transferring through the chassis, the steering wheel, into your butt, into your feet, and just making a less quality.
And whereas other Konis are adjustable, the FSD is not adjustable because it is sort of adjusting itself in real time based on these valves.
Exactly, and this is the FSD valve. So what we did was we put it into a product line, which would be the special actives, so that we can expand that. So the 2018 Mustang, this is the first prototype that even has a set of it on it. So bringing it more to the market there, it's, a lot of what you're used to would be some of the Camaro stuff in the European applications.
Okay, so let's start out talking about applications. We had a question here about cut-a-strut. Are these going to be available as inserts as well for the cut-a-strut type applications, or I know these are available in a much wider lineup than the FSDs were. Talk to us about how wide the applications are. I couldn't find a synonym for a second, Alan.
Certainly.
Yeah, but talk to us about sort of how wide those are, and how many cars we have access to, and can we use them in cars that may have had sport inserts placed in an OEM strut housing already?
Sure. I mean, the technology itself is going to be sensitive to ride height. So, I mean, as we're looking to branch out and start adding more applications into this, we do need to develop it with, can we put a lowering spring on it? How much of a lowering spring can we put on it? In the past, we've had our 2150 IBOT kits. They were FSD products with IBOT kits. Now we're going to have we're launching actually in the next few weeks an 1165 kit, which is a special active with the spring. But we do want to put the spring on the car, test it out. I mean, it's not a smart device. It doesn't understand a bump rubber versus an impact in the road. So that's where Koni's looking to expand it. As far as a cut-a-strut, the possibilities are endless with it. It's just really going to come down to we don't want to put it into every product because we want people's expectation of ride quality to match it.
Right. So you've basically taken the FSD technology and you've figured out a way to make it more applicable to a wider lineup of your applications at this point, it sounds like.
Correct. As well as manufacturing costs to kind of bring it a little bit farther down in the marketplace to make it a little bit more achievable.
That's awesome. So tell me about springs a little bit. One of the things we always hear about is you want to match your springs to your shocks. With these not being an adjustable shock as such, but adjusting in real time, how much of a spring change can they handle before you start exceeding the capability of what these valves can adjust for?
It's generally not the spring rate. It's generally how low it's going to be. So
okay.
Are you going to be bottoming out, or maybe some of the cars that generally ride on the bump stop anyway? That's the application wise. So
C5s.
Yeah. I mean, if we had an IBOT kit for it, we're going to have the 1165 IBOT kit for it now.
Okay.
So it's just, I can't give if I say it'll fit like a Sport, you can put any lowering spring on it. A street product, you can put any lowering spring on it. If we openly say a special active, you can put any lowering spring on it, people will go 2-3 inch lowering drop. So it really is going to be whatever Koni recommends to be a kit, and we'll give those kits as the 1165s.
And we talked about cost a little bit, and the cost on these are actually a little bit lower than the FSDs, which is
A little lower than the sports.
lower than the sports even. So how much lower are we talking about? What's an MSRP on these versus?
So
let's say a
typically, I
sport?
mean, it's going to be about 15 to 20%, depending on application, less than a set of sports are going to be.
Wow.
So I've used rule of thumb of, a set of streets might run you, $400 to $500 for 4 shocks. The sports could run on the same car, generally, between $700 and $900 for a set of 4. And the special active's going to come in that sweet spot in the middle there.
Wow, and I used to have a set of FSDs on an old C5 that I used to autocross that were absolutely fantastic. I mean, they were, for a non-adjustable shock, you didn't feel like you were giving up any kind of performance if you were going to run a track day, if you were going to run an autocross or something. I didn't feel like I was really giving much up because the shocks kind of worked with me. I mean, maybe they didn't have that, 1% of ultimate performance on an autocross course, but for 98% of the drivers, 98% of the time, what a fantastic product that that matches the way people drive. Is this something you would recommend for somebody doing track days or doing autocrosses?
Generally not. I mean, in order for FSD to exceed in those abilities, you have to be a very, very smooth driver. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Somebody that really just kind of throws the car around everywhere, they're going to want a sport to kind of dial in a little bit more of their driving style.
Okay, so basically, you have to work with the shock a little bit and drive around some of its limitations out at the very hairy edge a little bit.
If you're willing to sacrifice something on the street in order to gain performance on the track, then a sport product is for you.
Okay, but if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit on the track to gain the ability to drive it there, the Active is fantastic.
Exactly.
And it's called the Active. It's all mechanical though. There's no electronic connections.
Correct.
There's no preemptive adjustments. It's all fluid pressure and fluid flow based, right?
Correct. Yep.
So, all right. So tell us a little bit about the program here. We talked to Josh. He just came back after driving one of these. You're actually putting people in cars, driving them around a little bit?
That's just it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Koni's never done this before. It's a product line like Special Active. In order for people to understand it and not sound like it's just a scripted, I told you kind of what to say. It sounds a little bit like magic. We made your car ride better. The bumps you hit every day on the way to work aren't there anymore. It sounds like a sales thing. So it's butts and seats, give you the ability to come out, hang out, interact with the manufacturer, talk about the different product lines, as well as the opportunity to drive on this. It's really, you get to see firsthand that night and day ability.
So how many of these events have you been at so far?
I have been at, let's see, we are in, this is beginning of week 3. 1, 2, 3, 5. This will be the 7th event.
And what's the most common piece of feedback you're getting from people? Has a theme developed for you?
It really has. I mean, as being one of the driver's coaches in the cars, you don't want to influence them. So, you let them know kind of what to, keep an eye out for, what to feel, where to feel it. But you let them develop it and experience themselves and put it in their own words. And continuously they go out in the active car. They'll drive it. They'll say, yes, it's very comfortable. It still feels a little sporty. But if it's a 2018 Mustang, that's what they expect. If it's a 2018 BMW, that's what they expect. A nice, comfortable, firm ride. You feel the road. And then we go out in the OE car, and they don't really want to drive it anymore. So, I mean, from the active car, a 20-minute ride in that, and then before they leave the parking lot, they say they already noticed the difference. I ask them to hit the same bumps again, and they don't want to. It hurts.
Wow. So it's that quick.
Yes.
So when you go back and sort of sift through all this information you've gotten, I mean, you're not going to make a lot of changes to these, but what have you learned about going forward with these shocks? Maybe about the marketing or the tech support end. What have you learned on the trip so far that you think you might apply down the road? Are you going to go back and say we got to get this in even more cars, or
the applications certainly need to be there. I mean, it's really just for I'm a European car guy, and the BMWs, when I went out in that's how, if I bought a BMW, I would already have Special Active in my garage to put on. So I mean, the takeaway from there is just market awareness, keeping people giving people the experience in it. Our customers are the biggest thing. That's why we're stopping at all of them, so that their sales staff had the experience. So when they're talking to their
and it's definitely significant that you're here, Alan, as an engineer, and it's not just a bunch of marketing guys here. I mean, obviously Dave is here from the marketing end, but there are actual engineers here to talk to people. And we do have a couple of folks watching locally. They'll be here till 2 o'clock. If you want to take a ride in these Koni equipped vehicles, we'll be out here at Brothers Performance till 2 o'clock. And where's the next stop on the tour, Dave?
Tomorrow we'll be
Stida?
at Stida in Pompano Beach.
Yeah, Stida in Pompano tomorrow, and then Tampa the day after that, and then Stida in Valdosta the day after that, right? So yeah, next 4 days in the Southeast. If you're in anywhere in Tallahassee or Gainesville or even South Florida, tomorrow you can go by Stida, you can go by BMR, right, in Tampa, or Stida again in Valdosta. And then after that, you guys head out west for this tour, right? Texas. So yeah, 24 cities around the nation. And this is something, this is cool. This is, as journalists, we get to do this stuff a lot. We have manufacturers that'll bring us in, show us their products, give us firsthand drives, so we can then go and communicate that to our readers. This is a very cool program that you're taking it right to the end consumer. Yeah. Let's get David here for a second. You thought you weren't going to be on camera. Dave Dalton, everybody, Koni's ace marketing guy. So, when you first conceived this program, was that part of the excitement? Was let's take this right to the installers and right to the consumers and show them what this is all about?
Yeah, I think the thing is it's difficult to actually understand what the shock absorbers do unless you can experience it, and we realize that it's not possible for everybody to go to different places to experience it. So taking it to them makes the most sense.
Awesome. Got a question. One of our readers with an 05 M3. Is there an active application for the E46?
You put the marketing guy on when the technical questions come up.
Alan's looking it up.
We'll
figure it out for you. I know there's a sport for that car. So at that point, it kind of comes down to what you're doing with it. We're going to find out if there's an active for your 05 M3. So what have you learned on this tour so far? What kind of feedback are you getting as the marketing guy?
It's all positive feedback from the people once they get into the equipped car versus the OE car. It's immediately noticeable. People were saying that right away. They could tell a difference. The feedback so far has been all great, very positive, and I think that once people experience it, they're believers. So.
And how about from the installers? Obviously, it's just as important of a relationship for a company to have a good relationship with their customers, but having a good relationship with their installers, with their distributors, that's even more important. What are your distributors telling you about? Are they excited about this as well?
They are. Everybody's been very appreciative and excited to experience it and really take part in it. I think it's not something that many manufacturers do, so I think that it's really great that Koni's out there talking to all their distributors. The FaceTime has been wonderful for everybody. Conversations.
Got somebody asking about events in the Northeast. You guys have done a Northeast swing already. Are you heading back there at all?
Yeah, we just got back from New England. That was a week and a half ago, and we had several stops up there. So it's all south and west from here.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, Andy, if you missed out on that. You'll have to catch them when the active Evo 2 comes out.
That's right.
So is this?
All the events are listed on the Facebook page, by the way. So there's a rundown of them.
We've thrown a couple links up to the actual event schedule. So there's plenty, and it's free. It's free to come out and try somebody's product out, which is not something that the end user gets to do all that often. So I asked Alan what he's going to sort of debrief himself when he gets back.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway going to be from this as to how you're marketing these and sort of how you're communicating with the end users and the distributor network based on what you've seen so far?
Well, we hope that the buzz will spread as far as the people actually talking about it, because like I said, the experience is what really sells the product. It's difficult to put all of this experience in a piece of literature and expect that people are going to understand it. So I think the overall experience is what Koni's about, and I think this is a part of that, and hopefully the conversations will get more people interested in the product.
Awesome. And Burton, to answer your question, no active for your M3 yet, but there is a sport for your M3. So if you're looking for a rebound adjustable shock, something you can dial back a little bit to drive to or from the track, something you can play with your tuning, your balance, your rebound balance at the track, at the autocross, there is a Koni Sport application for your M3. So going forward, do you see there being applications for the Active across the entire lineup? Like where is this going to fit in Koni's sort of pantheon of lineup of shocks?
Yeah, so in theory, yes, we'll leave that up to the engineers, but the idea, the previous version of the frequency selective damping was a product line, whereas Active is more about the technology inside, and that opens up the doors for sure for people to, for the engineers to put that across more applications. So yeah, that idea is flexibility for sure.
Awesome. David, thank you very much.
You.
We appreciate it. Let me get this back. All right, actually, my boss, Tim Sutter, just got here. We're gonna throw him on camera in just a second to let him know that he's gonna go for a ride in one of these cars. Tim, come see me. And we're gonna actually get some firsthand feedback on what these are. I think we're gonna take one of these BMWs out, and we're gonna basically give you some real-time feedback. So we'll be stopping this broadcast, and we'll be starting a new broadcast from the car. Tim, come here for a second. But before you even get all sweaty, so you just showed up here. You can hold that.
I did just show up.
He literally just pulled up. So your timing is perfect. In a few minutes, we're going to actually put you in one of these Koni Active equipped cars, and then put you in a stock equipped car, back to back with that. And you're doing that, not me, because nobody trusts me anymore. But
Well,
you've got a long history with this company. We used Koni shocks on the very first project car we ever did as a magazine.
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my cars have Koni shocks. I haven't installed Koni shocks since yesterday. Actually, spent all weekend putting an E30 chassis together and used Konis on it. So they, there's other brands, but Konis have always made my cars handle and ride better. And the ride is important too if you've got to drive to work in it every day.
Yeah. So that I asked one of the folks that just came off the tour earlier, when you're putting shocks on a car, and you put together 3 or 4 cars a year, we all do. What's your wish list for? We all have that little bit of fear when we put a shock on a car, like, oh man, am I turning this car into something that I can only put on a trailer and take to track, or am I really getting benefit from this? What's your wish list for a shock absorber?
Well, I wish it was free. I wish it would last for 100 years. I wish it would put itself on. I don't know why I have to do all that work. You want me to get a little more serious?
No, well, no. I mean, if we take each of those though, and you look at the fact that these are cheaper than sports, and they have a broader application than the old FSDs. So not free, but budget friendly.
Well, and budget friendly, adjustability is certainly important. It's nice to be able to crank them down, at an autocross, and soften them up for the street. It's a lot of work to put a set of. Well, actually, sometimes it's a 10-minute job.
Yeah.
But on the front of an E30, not so much. So I think you've got to have something that lasts, because you don't want to have to do that job again in 6 months.
Right.
And there's a lot of false economy. There's some areas you can get away with cheaper parts in certain areas, but I think shocks is one where a good quality product makes more difference than in some areas.
Awesome. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say goodbye for just a couple of minutes while we move some of our broadcast equipment over to one of these cars, which basically means my phone. We're going to come back to you live from behind the wheel of one of these cars, take a ride around Deland here, and then take a little ride in the OEM equipped car. See what we think. Just kind of get a real-time feedback for what we think these things are doing. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be literally 5 or 10 minutes. As soon as we can get things organized on our end, we'll be back live. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing. Thanks to the gang from Koni. Thanks to Tim and Ed, Miles, and Katie, all the folks making the broadcast possible today. We'll see you not even see you. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. See you back here in just a few minutes live again. If you're anywhere in Central Florida today, come by Brothers Performance in Deland. You'll be able to take out one of these Mustangs, one of these BMWs, check it out for yourself. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Bye, everybody. See you in a couple minutes.